So I felt called to discuss one particular angle that has been growing on me, that of how is it that we can move into a space of love with others in a more deep manner, in a more meaningful manner. And each of us wants to do that. Let's look at the basic premise. It is not that any of us doesn't want to do it, doesn't want to go deeper in love. And that is why we say that each person is a god in disguise. Each person is innately good, and each person experiences a will to love. But nevertheless, what is it that doesn't allow us to love as profoundly as we would want to? Even though we see the value in love, even though we see that love can heal everything for others and for ourselves, what is it that spoils the game? Knowing this and understanding this is very important. Each of us has a conditioned personality, and what is this personality conditioned with? That is the important question. Having our own ways to look at the world and dividing this world into right and wrong, into good and bad, into seeing some people as great and others as maybe wretched, seeing some activities or some intentions as noble and others as ignoble or less than noble. Every time we pedestalize somebody, worship somebody, we are also perhaps as a collateral damage, bringing somebody down. I remember this particular Subhashita from Sanskrit that we often, I don't remember the exact words, but what it meant was that the moonlight chooses to shower itself even upon the house of a chandal, or say even upon the house of a butcher. The moonlight doesn't differentiate between good and bad. That is our absolute nature. At the level of our absolute nature, we are all encompassing and we are all inclusive. But at the level of our relative nature, each of us has formed some rigid guidelines in terms of good and bad, right and wrong. Suppose a child is doing something, a child is, for example, moving about. My daughter often jumps on the sofa set, and then everybody sort of gets a little irritated and then reprimand her that isn't this your home and how can you do this to the sofa set, why can't you play somewhere else? But imagine, this is precisely what kills love. Any sort of should, any deviation from where you are or where you expect the other person to be, the other person is somewhere and you want the other person to be anything besides where he or she is precisely what plays the game spoiler or the deal breaker for love. Can we restrain this tendency in us to correct everything around us? Can we restrain this tendency in us to correct everybody around us? Can we hold our horses and say that for all I know, what this person is being like or what this person is doing is precisely the way he's supposed to be or do in this moment? Can we hold space for another individual without corrupting our mind with any strong opinions about this person? That's what can keep love alive. And that's what we need in order to maintain harmonious relationships around us. The moment we get into the mode of correcting another human being, no matter how well intentioned we are, I repeat, no matter how well intentioned we are, the energy that goes across to the other person is that of advice, is that of playing the father figure, that of playing the big daddy, that of I know it better. And none of these energies is supportive of love. Each of them is destructive of love. The only worthwhile energy is to hold space for the other person exactly the way the other person is. The other person may not fit into our own preset templates of good and bad, right and wrong. The other person may come across as somebody who is morally corrupt or less evolved, or perhaps if you choose the other side of the spectrum, more evolved or morally strong. But either side of the spectrum is not worth it. I have made this mistake in my life for years together, and I still make it. Not that I am above it, but I'm getting better at it. And this is an invitation to each of you who happens to, I just felt like spontaneously recording this live. So, each of you who is around right now, if you're listening to me, this is an invitation to explore this way of operating in this world wherein we consciously choose to stay above dividing the people around us into good or bad, right or wrong. And we choose to stay above this tendency itself to divide life into any pecking order, so to say. Whatever happens to us, let's take some mundane examples. Whether we wake up with a start and then we have a bad day, or we haven't slept well the previous night, or if somebody has spoken ill about us or spoken ill to us, or we are experiencing some sort of a cash crunch, each of these situations, the intellect always convinces us is bad, is not worth having. If you are in touch with me right now, if you are registering what I'm telling, it would be awesome to receive your message. And if you have any queries also, please put them here. So I'll be able to answer them right away. So every time we come from this space of seeing any of these mundane issues of life, which the intellect convinces us as very validly bad. I mean, how can somebody betray me? How can somebody speak back to me? How can somebody not tell me? How can somebody take me for granted? These are all demands we are placing upon life. And every time we place a demand upon life, life is not obliged in any way whatsoever to fulfill that demand. Each of us feels entitled to be necessarily treated well. And that's where the whole problem lies. The sense of entitlement that we should stay on top of life, that life should behave well with us, that people should behave well with us, that things should happen the way they are supposed to be happening, is precisely what creates this gap between man and man. Can we operate? This is an invitation to myself and to all of you. Can we operate from this space wherein we allow the other person to be precisely the way they are in this moment, not choosing to call them names, not choosing to put them on some standard barometers that we have in our head, some standard yardsticks of evolved or less evolved, pious or not pious, good or bad, but let them be without projecting a label upon them, a label which our intellect chose to fabricate and which, for all we know, is highly questionable. In the grand scheme of things, the narrow definitions which our intellect provides are highly questionable. So, if we can operate from this sort of space for everybody around us, then that itself adds up. The people around us experience this non judgmental space, this energy which doesn't correct, this energy which is not about choosing to define them or choosing to make them wrong or choosing to unnecessarily create any sort of demands on them, and that energy is always reciprocated. This is what love is, and this is what is reciprocated with love. But if in the name of love we want to change others, if in the name of love we want to behave as if I'm doing a loving thing, and by my loving thing I am helping you, then that is precisely where we go wrong. So I am not saying that the intentions that we carry are wrong. What I am saying is the energy which we carry, which we project, which we transmit, is the energy of wanting the other person to be different from how he or she is. And that's what stops us from experiencing the giving and the receiving of unconditional love. That's it for today. I just felt called to share this message. Goodbye.